Hey, welcome to another episode of the Walking Life's Journey podcast. For those that are joining us for the very first time, we say thank you. And those that continue to show up week after week after week, we appreciate you greatly. I am one of your hosts, Nikkita White.
And I am Lorenzo White.
And I'm Keyondra White.
And together we make the White family. And you can find us on a variety of platforms, but make sure wherever you find us that you remember to subscribe, share, and comment. Where can they find us?
Lowe's, Amzo's, Home Depot, Carl's Jr. Burger on the third Thursday of the month. Y'all wasn't ready. Y'all missed that.
We weren't
Y'all
ready.
missed that.
We weren't ready for that. Keyondra, where can they find us?
You can actually find us because I won't be there. But you can find
Haters,
us
man.
on YouTube, Podbeam, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music.
Awesome. And you definitely cannot forget, if you are a Facebook user, make sure you're joining our Walking Life Journey Facebook group because you are going to get a daily dose.
Of
motivation. You can comment. You can start a motivation quote off, but it's just a good community because I promise you, each day we need something to pick us up as we go on this journey called life.
All right.
Now, today, I want to talk about what holds you down or what has you anchored. Now, I've had to laugh at myself because about a little over a month ago now, I was gathering all our documents to prepare our taxes and not sure why, but routinely, consistently, I am always gathering information. I don't care what it is. If I need to focus, I am on the floor.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that for years. I get everything and I sit on the floor. It's not that we don't have a table in the house. It's not that we don't have a desk in the house, but it's something about when you get all that material and sit on the floor. So I had to ask myself, why do you do that? Because I'm laughing. I'm legit laughing as I sit down with all my tax documents. Why can't you go to the kitchen table?
Knees hurting.
Why can't you go to your room and sit at your desk?
Back hurting.
You're going to sit on this floor knowing that.
Butt going numb.
Yes. And it's going to be hours before you finish the actual project that you are focused on. Mm-hmm. And so I laughed at myself. And then I had to say, the answer came so clear. You have always landed on the floor because that's where you feel the least distracted. You are grounded, you're focused, and you're ready. So I thought back, I said, when we were in school, what did they teach you in school during a fire drill? Y'all remember what y'all was taught in school? Mm-hmm. In a fire drill? Mm-hmm. What you was taught?
Get out.
How you gonna get out?
Low.
So stop, drop, and roll.
That's if you're on fire.
Yeah. I was like, in a drill, we get out.
In a fire drill, we get out.
On fire, you start dropping and rolling.
But the smoke rises, so you stay low.
Okay. Yes.
They coming for me, y'all, today. It's okay. But no, that you stay low, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen. And is the smoke high? Is the smoke low? Smoke rises. Mm-hmm. Now, we ain't gonna get too technical, but depending on where the fire is, you might not want to get on the floor right away. You want to get out. But the moral of the story is, when I'm on the floor, there's least distractions. Okay. I don't have that many distractions because even when, and it's not any floor, it's one particular place in our house that I get on the floor. Yeah. So when you guys look in the living room, you can't tell if I'm present or not, right? You got to come around the couch and be like, oh, I didn't know you was down here. And I was like, yeah. So I don't have distractions. If Jakari come out the bedroom before mom gets up, he don't see anybody in that living room. He's making a dart to her room or a dart to go to our room. Mm-hmm. That's where it's at. So I say all that to say distractions hit differently when you're on the floor. And so that was the answer that I got for me. Okay. So that's why I laughed. Now, when I think about being anchored, I realize that sometimes we are anchored to things that are really, really good for us. Mm-hmm. And it pulls us back. I don't care how far you try to go the opposite way, it pulls you back. And sometimes we are anchored to things that are not good for us.
Right.
So that's what I want to kind of talk about today. I just had to laugh at myself Because, girl, why do you like the floor? I like being bare feet. I like doing all those things, and it just grounds me. It helps me stay focused. It helps me like just regroup, maybe. So we're gonna talk about being anchored or what you're attached to. Y'all okay to talk about that with me today?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So as we move through this podcast today, and as you listen to our words, I want you to change your wording. If you are anchored to something that you know is not good for you, I want you to start saying that used to be. Don't keep giving that anchor hold on you, because that's what an anchor does. An anchor is, think about a boat. An anchor is put on a boat to hold a boat in place, slow a boat down. I'm not the fisherman. I'm looking at my fisherman. Tell me what else the anchor can do. I always know about holding and slowing.
Yeah, I mean,
holding and slowing.
It keeps you in place. It keeps you from drifting off.
Yeah.
From where you want to be. So it keeps you, again, in place.
Sometimes we want to anchor to keep us in place.
Right.
And sometimes we need to find another tool to cut the string or the rope, the something, because we no longer need to be anchored in that environment, right?
Right.
Okay.
Because even speaking with boats, sometimes your anchor can get stuck on something when you're trying to move.
Yeah.
In those cases, you got to kind of cut your losses, and especially if you got to get up out of there and there's no way out. You gotta drop that anchor.
Got to drop the anchor.
Yeah.
I like it. So I went back and I said, sometimes anchors are good, sometimes anchors are bad. Well, if you all caught our last episode, you would have heard us say we were in the Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. Mm-hmm. And one morning, we got up and we went out to the beach. And what I saw was really, it was about a row of like 5 different boats. No dock in sight. I'm used to seeing boats tied to a dock so that they don't move. Where in this particular situation, there was no dock, but those boats were there.
They weren't going anywhere.
They were there. They were not going anywhere. Their owner wasn't out there trying to protect them. Mm-hmm. There was nobody trying to keep the boat in one spot. And then you have to realize that boat couldn't move because it was anchored. It was anchored. And the anchor was doing exactly what it was supposed to do. Even though the waves would come and push, like sway the boat side to side and just move, it did not leave its physical area. But nobody was worried. I say that to say, what has you anchored? Because in that situation, we couldn't see the anchors. I didn't see a dock. I didn't necessarily know how it was tied up. But what I knew for sure, that boat wasn't moving.
That's right.
I don't know what type of anchor it was. Nothing. It was not moving. So with that, I had to say, okay, this topic landed on me about a month ago, actually. And every time I was like, oh, we're going to do the podcast. Something else kept coming up. And every time they was like, okay, so are we going to podcast today? I'm like, yeah, we're going to podcast today. What's the topic? The topic is still, what has you anchored? What has you anchored? What has you anchored? Keyondra, what has you anchored?
What has me anchored? Well, I was just saying that I feel like school has had me anchored for so many years. And when I submitted my last assignment, I felt like this weight lifted off my shoulder. Like I'm not anchored no more. I'm able to do everything else. The doors just open. I'm able to do everything I had planned to do because every time I wanted to do more, planned to do more, it kept bringing me back like, I have homework, I have all this stuff I got to do. So my mindset kept getting pushed back to school. So that had kept me in one place for so long. But now that I'm done, it's like the possibilities are endless at this moment. Like I just don't feel stuck no more. I feel like I can breathe. I feel like I'm ready for what's next to come.
Yeah, like a whole new world opened up for you, right?
Yeah, because I'm not having to come back to schoolwork.
Yeah, I feel you. Much in the same way as far as what had me anchored, military. Military had me anchored for 22 years. We knew where we were going. Didn't necessarily know the time frame or anything like that, but we knew we had steady paychecks coming in. We knew we had that foundation, right? And didn't necessarily have many worries. When when I drove off that base for that final time, it was like a cloud moved, and it's like you said, man, the whole world opened up. Like, okay, man, what do you want to do next? You got options.
Yeah, and you brought up that foundation. I feel like military, even school, you're stuck in this routine. You have a consistent routine, and now that you don't have to stick by that routine, it's kind of like, what's next? Yeah. I'm free to do what I want at this point.
Yeah,
I like exactly where you both went, right? Because in my mind, when you all were talking and you both shared your anchors, I looked at those as positive anchors, right? They were positive anchors. In order to go to school and finish a degree, not 1, but 2 degrees, you got to be disciplined. So that anchor is discipline. That anchor is sometimes I got to move all these other things out the way because I got to stay focused. So it was a good anchor, even though you've lifted that anchor up and now you're like, hey, my boat is ready to move.
Ready
and
to
I'm
sail.
ready to coast into the next spot, right? And that's exciting. That is exciting. You just talked about, Mr. White, military. The military was an anchor. It taught us so much, though, and it set our foundation. Yes, we knew when that paycheck was going to come, but we also didn't know when we were going to be told to go somewhere, where we were going to go. Were we able to go with you, or did you have to go alone? So it's so much we didn't know, but it was still a good anchor. So anchors are not always bad things that hold us to something, but it can sometimes feel like, oh, I can't move.
Yeah.
I want to move. I want to do this. I want to get this. I can't do it because of this thing that got me stuck. Wow. It was nice was it last week? We were about to leave the house and Kari woke up and we said, hey, we're going to go here. Mom has her last day of school. And his face was like lit up because he's 7. All he knows is mom in school, mom has school, mom in school, mom's in school, mom. And he's like, mom doesn't have any more school? So even your anchor that was holding you, it held him some way, right? Because of time or time management, and you had to do things in a certain way. He's like, shoot, the possibilities are endless. I like that. So as you look over your life, what are you anchored to? Are you anchored to fear? Are you anchored to joy? Are you anchored and motivated about what the next step is for your life? Are you anchored in truly knowing who you are? Are you anchored by defeat, deflation? Literally, what has you anchored? And if it's one of those things that should not be in your life, how do you go by removing an anchor? How do I remove an anchor? I know when we first moved out to Idaho, we would go to the boating course, and they would talk about how expensive the anchor is, Mr. White. And they was like, if you lose this anchor, put down this flag so we can know where to come and get it from. How easy is an anchor able to come loose?
Right.
How easy?
Well, like you said, when you mentioned putting the flag there so they know where to find it, sometimes you might not be able to recognize your anchor right away. You might have to go back and reevaluate. Because when she first brought up the question, I'm like, what is anchoring me? At the time, I'm like, I don't know. But I had to really think back, like, what's been holding me back? Like, you might not realize you have these goals, but fear is the thing holding you back. Or like you're so like happier in the place you're at that joy is keeping you where you're at because you're just enjoying your environment right now. So you might have to reevaluate and find it before trying to lift it. Yeah.
That's real good.
And sometimes when it comes to anchors, like I stated earlier, sometimes it can be so difficult to move an anchor that you have to cut your losses, cut it loose. But sometimes it's stuck, but you need some help to get it unstuck. You couldn't necessarily do it on your own because of how whatever it was stuck to, it was just too much for you to do on your own. So sometimes, because I've been in a situation on the boat with Key, we've been out there fishing. I was like, yo, this thing is moving, but it's not moving.
Yeah.
And he'll come over and we'll grab it together. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it takes assistance
Yeah.
in order to get you unstuck
Yeah.
from certain situations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You made me laugh because legit, we've had so much. I don't think I've ever been in the water in boats and paddleboarding and those type of experiences until we moved here. Like we would enjoy the beach and stuff like that. But I remember purchasing
I know where she's
Yeah.
going with this now.
an island. It was
Yeah.
an island for you to be in the middle of the water, and it had this anchor, right?
It was an inflatable island.
An inflatable anchor, and it's kind of like you could just be on this inflatable island, just relaxing and just enjoying the water, right? Now, the anchor for this inflatable island was a bag that you put weight in, and you drop the bag with the weight in it to be your anchor to make you stay in that spot. And we're on this island just enjoying. Keyondra and her friend, they're actually doing some canoeing. I think y'all were doing kayaking. And so we are on the island, and we were trying to float out to get out a little bit of distance. And one of my friends, she said, "Hey, you think you should put the anchor down, right? You think you should put that down?" And I was like, "Well, hold on, let us get a little bit." And so when I dropped it, reality is we were so far. We were so far out there. The little anchor that came with this inflatable island,
A little short.
it was short. And she realized at that time that I wasn't okay. She was like, "We good?" I was like, "Nope." And so we're like, "Oh, we're going to have to push this thing and start swimming." Now, we weren't really that far out, but we were out further enough. And we had life vests and things like that on. And the people that was actually monitoring the area could see us. And so we really wasn't in trouble, but it was a little bit more past my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And so here come Keyondra and her friend on they canoes.
But first, we were like kind of far out. We were far out, and we was looking, and we was like, "Is that them?" We're like, "They're kind of far. Is that them?" So we like paddle over, trying to go see what they're doing, trying to see if they're good. And she's like, "No, help us!" So we had to like pull up the anchor. We had strings, and we're trying to like paddle ourselves and pull them at the same time.
Yeah.
One is in the water trying to swim and pull and push. When I say it was funny, and I can laugh about it now, but again, we had help right there. But going back to what Mr. White said, sometimes you need that support. Mm-hmm. You got to be anchored in knowing that if I just yell out, somebody's going to come and help me.
Yeah.
I am not sitting in this alone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to do this alone. All I got to do is open my mouth, wave my arms, whatever it is, but I got to get your attention because my anchor is a little short.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with asking for that help, especially if you know you have that team around you. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
So I ask you the question again. What has you anchored? What has you stuck in a place that you no longer belong? What has you stuck trying to make and keeping you from making that next step? If it's something that you are attached to that is positive, and it's saying, nope, you're not going to take that extra step, because if you step over there into that situation, that's going to just end it for you. That's not a good place. So I'm standing on the positivity that I've been rooted in and that's anchored in me. So I'm going to let that anchor be. But you know what? Fear cannot hold you. Doubt cannot hold you. Pity cannot hold you. It's time to remove those anchors. So we ask you to change your wording. And if it's one of those negative things that are holding you down, you're not going to give credit to that anymore. You're going to say that used to hold me back. And you're going to pick up that anchor and you're going to figure out what tools do you need to help you to move forward again.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And if you cannot identify those things, you got to surround yourself with good people, man. It's people that's going to let you know what's real. You know, that whole thing about having or being able to discern between, okay, are you just telling me this to be negative, or are you telling me this because you see something that I don't see?
That's good.
Because a lot of times people can, or you can feel like people are telling you something negative. Oh, y'all just don't want me to do this. But no, They're seeing something that you may not be seeing. So got to take into account those things. So definitely surrounding yourself with people that you can trust, people that you know are going to tell you just not yes man, yes women.
No.
You know, people that's going to tell you what it is, and actually give you options. Don't just tell me, yo, give me what you. Let me know what you see. Don't just say, oh, that ain't gonna work. No,
right? What's
tell me
work?
why. Yeah, tell me why it's not gonna work, and give me another avenue to go. You know, so yeah.
And also with your anchors, if you find multiple anchors, don't try to be Superman and lift them all at once.
Yeah.
In your life, you have to focus on one thing at a time. Like, okay, pull up one anchor. Okay, I worked on that. Go to the next one. And then you'll find out you're free after that. But it can be overwhelming to try to worry about everything that's holding you down at one time.
I love that.
I know when we were at Fort Belvoir, Jake, he gave me an analogy about trying to take on too much stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
And basically, he's like, put everything on your plate that you got. So you start naming these things, start putting things on your plate. And, you know, it's harder to, when you actually see everything that's on your plate, it's harder to manage those things and eat all of that at one time. You know, the best way to get through it, a lot of times is one bite at a time. You know what I'm saying? Tackle this first. Sometimes you got to do stuff in tandem at the same time, but trying to just take on everything that you're dealing with, man, you'll break.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You'll give before that thing gives that you're trying to get past.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Absolutely.
So
That's good. Well, I will not close out this episode without identifying that Keyondra said she lifted an anchor. An anchor has been lifted, and that's school. So we celebrate with you because not only did you graduate high school, you graduated with your bachelor's, you now have a master's degree in what? What is your master's in?
Communications and media management.
Woo!
all right, so manage this media.
You're like, here you go. It's all yours.
And I'm excited to see what's next for you. I'm excited to know that school is completed. I'm excited to welcome you to
Adulthood. Adulting. It's that time.
I knew it was coming.
Welcome. So always remember, as you are walking this journey called life, you are a key piece to your story. Until next time, thank you. Bye.
Peace.
Bye.